Hi guys, and welcome back to Cooking with Cody. On today's episode, I'm going to be showing you how to make a delicious, buttery, flaky pie dough that is sure to impress you and your guests. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when the holidays roll around, it's my job to make the pies for the family. And the first step in making a great pie is having a great pie crust. So if you guys are ready to see how this is done, let's get started. Alright guys, so the ingredients that you're going to need to make this pie crust are flour, salt, sugar, almond milk, and butter. And that's really all you need. You could substitute the butter for shortening or for lard, but I found that butter really gives it the most flavor. If you use lard is going to make your pie crust extremely flaky. So you could also do a combination of the others if you'd like. You could also substitute the almond milk for water, but I found that using the almond milk gives the crust a really good flavor. It gives a little bit of that nuttiness from the almond and the almond milk. So the recipe that I'm going to give you guys today is for one pie crust. So for a pie crust for a pumpkin pie, if you wanted to make an apple pie, you would want to double the recipe. I'm actually going to be using a triple recipe today because I'm going to be making a pumpkin and an apple pie with this crust later. So that it's going to look like I have more stuff here than what I really need, but for the ratio to make one pie crust, it's going to be 1/4 cup flour, half a teaspoon of iodized salt, half a tablespoon of sugar, and 4 to 5 tablespoons of water or almond milk, and then 6 ounces of butter. And again, I'm tripling it, so I'm going to be using triple that today, okay? So I'll also post those volumes at the end of the recipe, so if you guys forget, just fast forward and I'll have those at the end, okay? So basically to start, what we need to do is first we'll dish out our flour. So I'll move this stuff over. And for tripling the recipe, I'm going to be doing 3 3/4 cup of flour. So when you're doing this, you're going to want to never just scoop the flour out of the container, okay? You want to make sure that when you do that, you're going to be packing the flour down, and you want the flour to be light and fluffy when you're measuring using a measuring cup. So take a spoon and then spoon it into your measuring cup so that you get more consistent volumes. In fact, the best way to do this would be to weigh your dry ingredients so that they're the same every time. But since most people don't have a food scale laying around, I'll do this with the measuring cup. So all you need to do is just take your spoon, put it into your measuring cup. That way the ingredients aren't packed in and you don't have more than you're looking for. And then grab yourself a butter knife and just scrape off the top so you get nice level portions. Whenever you're baking, it's really important that you try to get really consistent volumes each time. Otherwise your recipe can come out dramatically different. So you want to be accurate on your measurements here. Then I'm going to put this into a sieve. Now, do you have to use this? No. But the point of having a sieve is so that there's no clumps that end up in your pie dough or anything else that you're typically cooking when you're baking. You're going to want to, again, whenever you're scooping dry volumes, to avoid packing the ingredients in, you want to scoop it in using a spoon if you're going to be using a measuring cup to do this instead of weighing your ingredients. And then run the ingredients through a sieve so that you can get rid of any clumps. And this will just make your dessert much more consistent, your crust much more consistent when you make it. So there's 2 cups. Three. And then I need 3/4. Half cup. Okay, and then my 1/4 cup. All right, there's 3 3/4 cup. Move that off to the side for now. And I'm just going to sift that. Get any clumps. Really wasn't many clumps in there. Get that nice fluffy flour that way. I'm going to add my salt. Add my sugar, which I'll also put through the sifter to get rid of any clumps. And you can see in this one I do have some clumps of sugar, so I'll just push those through. Excuse me, guys. All right, there's that. I'm just going to use my spoon to give this a little mix. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put this in the fridge. It's really important that all your ingredients are cold before you start working with them. So I've already cubed the butter up earlier, and I've cubed it up small like this so that when we go to start cutting it into the flour, it's going to be much easier or faster to get this done. But I'm going to put my dry mixture into the fridge for 5 minutes. I'm going to put my butter into the fridge for 5 minutes, and I'm going to put my almond milk also into the fridge for 5 minutes so everything gets as cold as possible. And the purpose of this is that once you combine the butter and the flour and you start working with it, you don't want the butter to melt. So having everything as cold as possible is going to keep the butter in its whole form, and you need that to get flaky pie crust. If you let the whole mixture warm up and the butter starts to melt, you won't get those clumps of butter in there which form the little pockets inside your dough and gives it its flakiness. So you need everything to be as cold as possible when making this recipe. So now we'll put them into the fridge for 5 minutes. All right, guys, so it's been 5 minutes, and so I'm gonna go ahead and get my flour out of the fridge, and then I'm gonna grab my butter. The butter can then be scraped into the flour. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're just simply going to cut the butter into the flour using one of these dough mashers, the pie cutter here, that you can pick up at like Walmart or Sam's Club if you don't got one. If you don't have one of these, you could also use a fork or some knives, and you could also cut that up, but we want to mash this butter in, cut this butter into the flour until it's about pea size. So I'm just going to start doing that. Then I'm just going to take my knife and run it along here if you start getting clumps, just to kind of get that worked back in. All right, guys, and there we have it. So again, I was just looking to cut that butter into the flour until it was about pea size. If you have a few bigger chunks, it's really not a big deal. Okay. Then you end up with this. Hope you guys can see that with the light. All right, next we're gonna put in our almond milk. And really, you want to add the almond milk until the flour mixture just starts sticking together. So typically this is about 4 to 5 tablespoons for this recipe. Again, I've tripled mine, so I'm going to be using 3 times that. So how I'll do this is I'm just going to get a fork, and I'm going to start to put it in a little bit at a time, and then I'm going to give it a mix. And what I'm looking for is the flour to start sticking together until it just starts to hold its shape. And once it starts to just hold its shape, then I'm going to stop. I don't want any more liquid. Okay, and you can see at this point that most of it is all starting to stick together. There's just a little bit of the light crumbs left in there, and once I start to press that with the rest of it, that'll come together as well. Okay. So once you've added enough liquid that you get to the point where the dough seems to be sticking to itself, again, you just want just enough that it'll start sticking together, otherwise it'll get too doughy. Then with clean hands, you're going to go ahead and you're going to start to press this together. But you don't want to handle it much because, again, you don't want that butter to melt and your hands are warm. So I'm just going to try to start to knead this a little bit so it comes together. You don't want to knead it a lot because you don't want the dough to become chewy. There we go. Pretty much coming together right away. I'm going to dump this out on a clean countertop, which I've already cleaned my countertop earlier. There we go. Then I'm just going to pack this together like such. And you can see how it's still a little bit dry and flaky. That's perfectly okay. Once I let that sit, it's all going to start coming together. So I'm just going to knead this a little bit to bring this all together. There we go. Alright guys, and there you go. Now I have my section of, or my chunk of pie. So I'm going to be doing 3 pie crusts, so I want to cut this into 3 equal sections. One for my pumpkin pie bottom, and then I need a bottom and a top for my apple pie. So to do this, I'm just going to make some lines to help myself see where it'd be best to do this. Go. So there's 1. There's 2, and there's 3. Okay. You're going to want to get some cling wrap, saran wrap. Pull that out. We're going to roll that into a ball. Again, trying to minimize the handling. You don't want to melt that butter too much. Squish it down a little bit. You want it to be kind of in a rounded shape. This will make it easier for when you roll it out later. You want it to already be in kind of a nice little disc. We'll wrap that up, and we'll do the same thing with the other 3. Alright guys, and there I have it. 3 sections of pie dough, 2 for my apple pie and 1 for my pumpkin that I'm going to make later. Now all I want to do is I'm going to put this in the fridge and let that chill for 30 minutes. This allows, again, that butter to cool down, and it's going to make the dough easier to roll out a little bit later. It'll also allow the moisture to kind of reincorporate through the dough and make it easier to work with. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. Again, I'm just going to throw this in the fridge for 30 minutes, and then it will be ready to roll out once I'm done. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it on how to make your own homemade pie dough. Once that is chilled in the fridge for up to 30 minutes, it's good to take out and then roll out into for your pie. Or if you're not going to use it right away, you can always pop it in the freezer and let it chill for up to 3 months before it's ready for use. I really hope this video helps you guys with your cooking and improves your skills in the kitchen. If you liked the video, be sure to leave me a thumbs up and a comment down below if you have any questions or comments on the material. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified of all my future content. Thanks again for watching, and until next time.